production of energy in the mitochondria of the cells.
Yeah.
So it's doing all those things. Now, what about childhood? Are children particularly at risk of iron deficiency?
They tend to be, certainly even in the first year of life. I think a lot of national guidelines involve including extra iron supplements given to a baby for the first year of life, because you're trying to treat, you're going to start doing blood tests on lots of children.
Yeah.
So, and children are not eating much by way of meat. And there is enough evidence to make sure that, because we want to avoid maybe a fairly small population of children becoming iron deficient and therefore having complications as a result of that, there are broad recommendations just to treat every child with a safe dose of iron. And this is what happens, as far as I know, in a lot of Western countries. It certainly happens where I live. And yeah, so iron deficiency is less common probably as a result of that.
And clearly women, due to menstruation, are at a higher risk. What about older people? Is iron absorbed more slowly when you get into your 60s, 70s, 80s?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I can say that I do see elderly people with iron deficiencies. I don't know if they are absorbing it more poorly. It's quite possible that they do. It would make sense that they may not absorb it just as well, but I don't see it as a big issue. If anything, because they tend to be less, they may be exerting themselves less than a younger person, even if they've got less being absorbed, they're also not utilising so much, therefore they're less likely to become anemic as a result.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's not the sort of throughput almost, as it were. Yeah. So I've just got a few quick fire questions here. The body can store iron, but relatively small amounts, much smaller amounts than I had thought actually. So we could run out of iron over a period of months rather than a period of years.
You can run out of iron very quickly. It depends on what you're doing. If you're a very sporty person, you can drop your iron levels, within a matter of weeks.
Right.
If you're getting it in at the same time.
Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of people know about hemoglobin, which of course is iron in the blood, but myoglobin is the reason that muscle is red, isn't it? So the muscles are metabolizing and using the iron quite a lot.
Yes.
We've talked about the immunity aspect, which was new to me. That's really interesting. What about iron in pregnancy? Is iron deficiency a problem in pregnancy very often?
So it is, but we should be staying on top of it. So in general, pregnant women are taking supplements, and they often take which contains some iron in it, some elemental iron, and they should be being monitored periodically during the pregnancy. Certainly, if they have clear symptoms of iron deficiency, or if they're just anemic. They will initially become anemic anyway, just because there's a dilutional effect. So they have all this extra on board, and so it seems like they're anemic. Actually, they have the same amount of blood, but the volume of the plasma has gone up, which means that they've got a relative anemia, and that in itself, that's part of the adjustment of pregnancy. That's why in the beginning of the pregnancy, women become a bit breathless. In the first trimester, the first 12 weeks, and very often that stabilises itself. But it is important to make sure they've got good nutrition throughout the pregnancy.
Because in pregnancy you actually need a larger volume of blood to perfuse the placenta.
Yes. Yeah.
There's it's as if there's more of the person really.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the plant and animal-derived iron. That's interesting. Liver's particularly high in iron, I seem to remember, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, there's a tendency not to eat offal in a lot of countries.
We store iron in our livers as well. Iron storage in the liver as well. So that's a source of that.
Yeah. And I particularly like the idea of taking some orange with your green vegetables to enhance the absorption of the non-key iron, which is good. Just clarify, please, what do you actually mean when you use the term anemia?
Well, it means that there are certain definitions of what is a normal hemoglobin, and that's based on the normal distribution curve in the population, and it's slightly different between men and women. Men have a slightly higher hemoglobin than women do, on average, but it also refers to the size and maturity of the cells. So if you have an iron deficiency, you would normally see, first of all, one of the things you see is an increase in the red cell distribution width, which in very simple terms means that normally you have most of the cells are around the same sort of size. Now, when you have an iron deficiency, because you've got less mature cells and possibly more mature cells, the distribution of that is wider. And so there's a measurement called RDW, which is red cell distribution width. And we can see that when someone's RDW increases, that's one of the signs of a latent anemia, let's say, an anemia that we may not be seeing obvious because they're maintaining normal hemoglobin levels, but they've got other signs in the blood picture that are suggestive of that, of an iron deficiency. If you've got a low average red blood cell size, it's called, this is the mean cell volume, this is also one of the signs of an iron deficiency anemia. And there are also other cells that we can see under a microscope called spirocytes, and there are other things that we can see under a microscope that can point towards an iron deficiency.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So so many things have to be right to get this basic transport of the oxygen from the lungs to the tissues of the body. It's quite amazing that anyone works normally. Really, there's so many things to get right.
And on that point, I think I may have had the spirocyte thing wrong. I know there's something called poikilocytes. There are various cells in that.
Yeah. There's a condition called spherocytosis, isn't there? Which is one of the hemolytics. Yeah.
I was getting a little bit confused myself there.
I'm not surprised. There's so many different shapes of cells that you can have.
Тяжело, блин. Вот это есть он самый. Этого не стоит, блин, взять кого-то. Вот это есть. Телефон, хорошо. Нет, не смотри. Смотри. Рональдо. Рональдиньо. ничтожество. Как это есть?